Heyo, welcome everyone to Today in the Scene. I'm Joe and I'm your host. Here on In the Scene, we dive into what's happening in the arcade space from new indie developers, arcade owners, and operators, and just general news in the space. So I want to jump right into this week's episode because I've been talking to Jeremy on and off for a while now, and I've really been wanting to talk to him. He runs Prince Arcades in Bolingbrook, Illinois, and he came highly recommended by Doc Mack, owner of Galloping Ghosts, and James, who owns Vintage Vault Arcade. So here's Jeremy. How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm excited to talk to you because you've been in the scene for a while. You know a lot of stuff. You've seen a lot of super rare games. You run an arcade. You restore cabinets. There's just a lot to you. So I kind of want to start breaking it down. So just introduce yourself. Who is Jeremy Fox, and what is your earliest memory of an arcade?
I'm Jeremy Fox, Prince Arcades in Bolingbrook, Illinois. I would say my earliest memory of an arcade is probably uh, Just Games in Downers Grove, Illinois. I would have been about probably 14 or so. We used to go there, 75th on the Mont in Downers Grove.
Going all the way back to the first arcade. I love to hear it. Let's talk about how you started Prince Arcades. Like you obviously collected the games, brought them in. What was the process of going from having the games to actually starting the arcade?
Well, we've been buying and selling games and building them for probably 17 years or so. And we accumulated quite a bit of games and finally decided to open a place. And we happened to be doing a Bolingbrook event called the Taste of Bolingbrook. And we were doing a big carnival tent. We had about 40 games out there. And the mall we were in, the manager kind of came up to us and asked if we were pondering opening an arcade. And I said, oh, yeah, we were thinking about it for quite a while. And that just kind of led to that. But leading up to that, we did vending machines and soda machines and snack machines and all that stuff, gumball machines for quite a few years before that. And then just kind of phased that out. We did routing of games like in laundromats and stores and all that, and kind of phased that out as well. And then we ended up doing an arcade.
Yeah, I love that. It was just an event, and you kind of unintentionally got endorsed by the mayor to open up an arcade. It's pretty a unique way to do it. And obviously,
Yeah.
you were already familiar with coin operation, running vending machines and things like that, and having a little bit of a route as well. I know that you're really big on keeping the arcade space viable for everybody and restoring cabinets. Tell us a little bit about what your restoration business is like because you run Prince Arcades, the arcade, but you also build cabinets and have restoration. So let us know what that other side of the business is like.
Well, we do a lot of bulk buying, and then when we buy games, a lot of them will need a lot of work, so we'll fix them up. We also have a wood shop where we'll build replica cabinets of, say, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Frogger, Tron, Hubert. Quite a few. We do about 30 different cabinets. But on a daily basis, we basically go through stuff that we buy, fix it up. Some of it gets fully restored. Some of it just gets into working order. And for example, just listed that guy today, the baby pack. Just got that running. Max Force behind me. We're doing replacing the monitor on it and changing one of the guns. Gyrus here. That'll go into the arcade when we're done. This is a new Polycade game that we built for Polycade. That one's getting shipped out tomorrow to Utah. So, oh, and Star Wars here. That's going to be delivered to Chicago tomorrow. This guy here, kind of dark in here. But yeah, so on the daily basis, we shuffle games around, buy them, sell them, list them, fix them. Some people drop games off to us to be repaired, and we don't do everything. We do a lot though. Some stuff we still have to send out, like some of the board work and such. But
I'm just curious, what's the craziest haul you guys have ever had? Because you said, you buy bulk or you buy I'm sure you purchased like old arcades that went out of business or warehouses that people are just trying to get rid of. What's
Quite a
like the
few.
largest you've ever gotten?
Um, I mean, that'd be hard to pinpoint exactly. We've done quite a few that are, 50, 100 games. Once in a while, we'll peak over 100, like 110 or something. But lately, like in the past 5, 6 years, there's a lot more people doing this, and there's a lot more demand for the stuff. So it doesn't come up quite as often as it used to. Maybe 15 years ago, it was easy to just buy games for 25 bucks, and they'd be like, "You got to buy them all," and we'd be like, "Okay." And now it's a little different story. But I don't know, probably 120, I'd say, would be probably the peak of a one purchase.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that's all I ever hear from everybody that owns arcades is, 10, 15 years ago, it was so easy to go and just find somebody that just wanted it out of their basement and they would just give you a Pac-Man, they'd give you a Galaga and it wasn't a big deal. And now you're shelling out 1,000, 1,500 bucks for some of those cabinets now, and they're
Yeah.
getting harder and harder to find, which is crazy.
Well,
Um,
I think there's just a ton of barcades opening all over the U.S. A lot of retro arcades too, but I think barcades is still kind of the big up and coming scene. But I mean, if you figure before those guys were doing it, there's several thousand less games needed in every state, so there was still a surplus of them. And now, not so much because usually when you list stuff, it just sells. I mean, got to be at the right price, but stuff sells pretty quick.
yeah, everybody's hunting for something, whether it be for the basement or, like you said, for their arcade bar, because they're popping up everywhere. I swear, as I look, there's 10, 15 in every state now. It's hard to find a state that doesn't
Yeah,
have at least a dozen of them, except Louisiana. That's the only one I've seen that like has like two, maybe three.
I
Um,
didn't know that.
I've got a question from a viewer, George Windsor. He has been commenting for quite a while. He's collecting games right now to open an arcade. I think he said he has like 34,
Like,
but he's still building. He said, I would love to hear more about the actual financial numbers. What's not worth it to have and what is worth it? And unknowns basically. So, like, what are some areas where you may not be expecting to spend money, but you end up spending money? And what kind of games do you think it's worth to have on the floor, and what games should you maybe avoid?
well, I don't think you can do if you're doing a smaller place like ours. We have a smaller place. I don't think you can do a lot of the same thing like shooters, for example. You can't have 20 shooters. You have maybe four or five. Maybe not even that. And then like of course the Haas stuff is 1980 to 87. There's several hundred in there that are awesome, and then of course your 90s beat 'em up, Simpsons, Turtles. That the four-player stuff. The NBA jams are great. Mortal Kombat's are great, except for Mortal Kombat 4, in my opinion. Um, there's yeah, there's a lot of games that you'll put in that you'll think people will play, and then if you just keep an eye on stuff, you'll realize they're not playing them. Like we did a lot of curating when we first opened, and even some of my ideas were false. So, but there's a lot of shuffling of games around. Now we've been there about 4.5 years, and we kind of have a situation where we don't really pull much stuff out anymore because you can kind of look at games and picture people playing them. But if you're uh, in your arcade, working it, you'll be able to see the stuff that people aren't playing. And I think every area is different, and there will be fans for just about every game. But a lot of games will get little to no play, and those can just go. You'll see it. Um, Repairs are one of the expenses you don't maybe fathom that's going to be so high. Also, just another small piece of advice: when we opened, we spent about a year prior going through all of our stuff and letting it run. Bringing it home 2, 3 at a time, letting it run in the garage for an entire day or so. A lot of these games, when you buy them from somebody and they were in the basement, they'll work, but like you try leaving them on for 12 hours and they'll go into shock and they'll stop working. So we did go through every single thing we own new power supplies, a lot of new wiring, new joysticks, lights, just a ton of preventative stuff, and that did help a lot when we opened. Because when we did open, we weren't having just breakdown after breakdown on the floor. The stuff was just solid, and that's because we tested it prior, you know. So a lot of guys will just buy a game and throw it right in the arcade, but after a day or two, it'll start having issues. So to avoid that situation for yourself, I would suggest testing everything, you know, thoroughly and letting it run for a day or two. And then you can get all the bugs out before you're in your spot and save yourself the embarrassment and hassle when you're trying to do a grand opening and have 10 games broken down. That's probably the best advice I can give about that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. It's something you could easily overlook because if you have the games, you've turned them on, they're working, you don't really think too much about it. And once that game runs for 5 6 hours and it starts getting hot, you have no idea what's going to happen with it.
Oh yeah.
So great advice. I guess a little more on the financial side. I noticed you guys are I guess they're kind of free play is what they're considered. You pay at the door and
Yeah.
then the games are on free play. Why did you choose that model over coins? I know I talked to Doc about this, and I talked to why am I forgetting his name? Down at Rick down at Arcade Odyssey. We had this conversation too.
Oh
He
yeah.
loves coins. He just changed to cards, I think. But what? Why did you decide to
Yeah, Rick
do?
Hoffman.
Why did you decide to do a pay to get in as opposed to a pay per play?
Well, so if you take your kids to Dave and Buster's, you're gonna spend, I don't know, depending on how many kids you have, you'll spend $100, a couple of $100 if you stay there a few hours.
That's easy
It's
to
kind of
do.
it's kind of ridiculous. Um, it's kind of high. Namco first started doing the free play model in the 90s, and yeah, Doc's been doing it for 12, 13 or whatever. He's been open a while. Um, it just works. First of all, you don't have anybody just hanging out clogging up the place if they're not spending any money. Secondly, what can you charge? What can you charge today for a, I don't know, say a game of Galaga or Pac-Man, just for a very basic example? What would you charge for that if you? I know some of these guys still do coin and stuff, but it just, I can't wrap my mind around doing 50 cents for a game, and I would never put $1 in a video game to play it. That just doesn't make any sense to me, especially something harder like Tron or something. And I don't know. I remember when we were kids, we would put a quarter in something, and then if we were horrible at it, we just go to something easy like Pac-Man or Galaga. That's why you see a lot of these classics that are worth a lot of money now are not beat up because I don't think they got played that much. They were hard games, and people wouldn't put the quarters into it if you only had $2 on you. Um, I think the paid entry thing is really the only thing that makes a lot of sense today. There's a lot of guys that do the cards and stuff too, but they might also be bars at the same time or restaurants. If you're doing just an arcade, you kind of want to cover that, get that admission covered so you have the guaranteed money from everybody in there instead of having people in there that would spend maybe the whole day there and spend $1 just taking up room. I mean, that's kind of the number one reason. And I'd say that's the number one reason,
I feel like you could even touch on the fact that like you were talking about repairs being a high end expense for your business. You don't have to deal with coin mechs. Like
really.
you don't have coin mechs breaking. You don't have to fix them. You don't have to constantly replace them. You don't have jams. You don't have people asking for quarters back. Like it's a lot of hassle that you just immediately wipe off the board by just saying pay to get in. Everything's on free play. It
You don't have to have a change machine taking up the space of a game, or yeah, the attendance and the Mister I lost my quarter thing. That's got to be annoying.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's And then I remember when we were younger going to Chuck E. Cheese and stuff, and every 4 minutes you run out of tokens, and you have to go ask your parents for another couple of tokens. And then I remember when I had kids going in there with the kids, and they would want the couple of tokens every 5 minutes. So yeah, I think the free play thing makes sense, especially if you have a family that's sizable and you just want to go somewhere. We're still $15 actually, same price we were when we opened, and that's still a pretty good deal today when you think about what it costs to go to the movies or something. That's 2 hours. And another benefit we have in our particular location is we got a lot of restaurants right around us, a lot of bars and stores and stuff. So we're in an outdoor mall, so it's kind of, people can leave and come back, and we do the re-entry thing too. They just come back in with a receipt. I love the model. I think it makes all the sense in the world, honestly.
Yeah, I personally, I think it's the way to go. It works really well. It works well in just a standard arcade, but it also works really well in an arcade bar too, because
Yeah.
at that point you're making money off the alcohol, so you know how much are people are paying to play your games. I think it's a win-win at that point. You find rare games all the time. Like you said, you get these lots. You find games that most people wouldn't find, or in the past you found games people wouldn't usually find. What are some games that have eluded you or you're still looking for?
Well, I would love to have a Cosmic Cruiser. I'd also love to have a Wacko. And it's not that I haven't had those before. I've had a few of each of those, but again, like back then when we were getting just everything rare and not rare, I don't think we ever thought it would end. I don't think I ever considered, maybe I should keep these. Maybe I won't run into these again because just constantly over and over again, you run into the same rare stuff again. And those times have kind of changed. I mean, we still run into some rare stuff, but it's definitely not as often as it used to be. As far as what's eluded me, I'm not sure I have anything on a specific list that I'm looking for, like actively. I think stuff comes and goes so quick that I never really gave that too much thought. Like I'm really, really looking for this game. I got a lot of boards still that um, we haven't put in cabinets. A lot of cool rare stuff that will eventually get up at the arcade. When we get around to it type thing.
Yeah, I mean, 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have even really thought about arcade bars, but now they're absolutely everywhere and everybody's got them. I want to say it was James that said you helped him get a Wacko or something like that, or he found it. I don't remember exactly what his story was on that,
Yeah.
but he told me that he was really excited to get that one, just because it was weird. Like that was exactly why he wanted it. It just looked weird. Um, I'm curious about your hours because every arcade seems to have different hours of the day that they're open, different days that they're closed, some days for repairs, stuff like that. So you chose to be closed Monday through Wednesday and be open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which obviously are the hottest days to be open. You got people on the weekends, stuff like that. Is this purely for a repair schedule or is this a financial decision because those days just don't make as much money?
So there was a time, I'd say maybe a year and a half or so, when we first opened, that we were open 7 days a week. And in our particular location, we're in the promenade, the outdoor mall, and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are just crickets. There's just nobody there. There's nobody there, and we'd suffer through the boringness of 0 days and days with four people, and um, going down to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Actually, well, it cut the electric bill in half. It cut the labor in half, and actually the less is more really would apply there, because it's more income actually being open just Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday than using the rest of the week to bleed out that profit. It really kind of turned out that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it also gave you more time to repair the cabinets that you had issues with and to do all the other like restoration and custom builds on the side. Like you said, you're doing polycade, so there's a little bit of an indie right there.
Right.
And
Good thing.
I think that's really smart. There are a handful of arcades near me that are only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it seems to be working really well for them. So I think it's a good model depending on your situation. Like you said, if your Monday through Wednesday is dead slow, cut the labor because you're losing money at that point.
Right.
Um, so I guess the last question I have for you is, as an arcade owner, obviously you have a bias towards certain games, certain places, things like that. What is your favorite arcade that you visited recently?
Oh,
Like in the
I
last couple
mean,
years?
that's a tough one. Uh, I don't have an answer for that. I apologize on that one.
That's fair. I mean, you've been to so many. I mean, it's like obviously you gotta love docks. Like you gotta love Galapagos,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I remember when they had 150 games over there. So
yeah, he's over 900 now. So
yeah,
that guy is just
9 or something.
that guy's
Yeah.
just stacking them. When I interviewed him, it was 907, and I think that was like 4 or 5 months ago. So it's got to be way beyond that by now.
Well, he has one a week. So
Every Monday, yep.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Me and
awesome.
him were actually road tripping yesterday in the box truck picking up some stuff. So
Gotta go find some games with Doc. I love
yeah,
that. Well, I want to say thanks for coming on here, Jeremy. Just
yeah, absolutely.
shout out your social medias so that people can follow along with your journey and see what you're up to at Prince Arcades.
Yeah, we're Prince Arcades on Facebook, Prince Arcades on Instagram. We have a Twitch channel that we have not put anything on yet. We'll get around to that, I think, one of these years. But yeah, pretty much Facebook is our number one, and then Instagram will be our very, very number two.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, Jeremy. It's really nice to finally meet you, talk about your arcade, get some wisdom from somebody that's been around the scene for a while here. And if you're still watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us a ton. We will keep growing and we'll ride the wave. I'm going to throw all of Jeremy's links down in the description so you guys can check them out. And until next time, peace.
Have a good one.